And so since we do have two new parents joining us, let me kind of catch you guys up and explain the purpose of this initially anyway. You know, Bob and I started this journey into how do we, I don't know, take some of the stress out of our daily lives, and we kind of stumbled upon Stoicism. And so what we've done is we've created a program, a business model designed to help students look at their situations and through using judgment, make better decisions, thus reduce the number of behavioral issues we find in school. So this initially started out as a way for us to work with the youth, but during the pandemic, you know, we couldn't get into school. So we figured, why not try to have something for the parents to deal with their kids at home? As a parent myself, I know how stressful that can be. So we saw this online activity as a way to help shift your perspective and maybe reduce some of your own personal stress. So that's what we've been doing for the past 3 weeks. The last philosopher we'll talk about is this guy named Seneca. And since you missed out on the first two, Bob, can you make those links available if they wanted to watch Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius?
Yeah, absolutely. I can go ahead if I can get Jackie, if you wanted to shoot your email on the chat, I can go ahead and give those to you on YouTube. Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
So we'll get you all set up.
So understanding this whole thing is just a work in progress. I mean, as much as Bob and I read this stuff, we still have confusion over direction and how we do what we do and if we're doing it the right way. I mean, even yesterday we got into a kind of a lengthy discussion about a particular term. So if you're making any progress at all, congratulations. And Melissa, well done. The fact that you're on the journey means that you're on the right path. So let's move on to Seneca.
Yeah.
Who is one of my personal favorite Stoic philosophers. He is what I would refer to as almost like a family therapist. Yeah, he's pretty exciting.
Cool. Dobby, can everyone see the screen share? All good?
Yep.
Okay, cool. And I just wanted to second what Dobby said is that we are true testaments of the success of the research behind these cognitive mental changes that we're teaching. And we just happen to really like Stoic philosophy. And a lot of the people who were influenced by this train of thought, these methods in education, were influenced by these guys. And so that's kind of why we're using these philosophers in order to kind of spread these practices.
Great.
Yeah.
So when you think back to some of the techniques that are used today, like mindfulness and different types of meditation techniques, what we're discussing now predates all of that. So if you just look at some of the important years of Seneca, he was born in 4 BC. He lived in Rome. So this was the time, of Jesus and the beginning of everything. Stoicism was already at this point, it was being practiced. It's really the first self-help way of looking at life to kind of regulate your own behavior. So everything we're talking about really precedes and was used to build what we have today. So if we just look at Seneca really quick, he was born in 4 BC. He was a Spaniard, moved to Rome. You know what, Bob, actually, you do this part better. I'm going to let Bob do this because...
Oh, you're doing such a great... Okay, all right. I can do it. It's no problem. Okay, all right. So, in 41 BC, Seneca, what happens when the government is really powerful, there's people that are spreading new ideas. The government gets scared, right? Oh, no, we can't let this guy keep talking. He's too influential, and he is exiled to the island of Corsica. And this is off the coast of Italy, and that's in 41. And he talks a lot about... And it kind of is related to today's harsh environments with the George Floyd protests, right? We have a lot of people who are sort of excluded from the normal conversations. And so Seneca writes a lot actually about being excluded. What is it like to be an outsider, this type of idea, right? And then later in 49, he returns to Rome. So they kind of loosen. They're like, oh, no, we need to change the way that we're, excluding people. The government basically says, okay, you can return, Seneca. And he tutors the Roman Emperor Nero. And Seneca was really troubled by this because, I mean, it could threaten his life if he refuses to tutor the emperor, but Nero was not a very good guy. I mean, there's a lot of crazy tyrannical history about him, and Seneca really has trouble with grasping with the moral nature of, should I be teaching this madman, basically? And there's actually a lot of writings that he does on that too. And then obviously in the end, Nero orders Seneca to commit suicide. This is actually a really it's strange to us, but back in Roman times, they would actually force people to commit suicide as like an honorable death of execution, instead of just being like, a normal cause of events like other forms. And so that's how he ends his life. And he actually talks a lot about what is the honorable way to deal with all of this stuff? Because when we talk about law and justice today, and this is kind of our relation to education and equity in the K-12 system, a lot of it has to do with how do we respond to these laws that we see as unjust, right? And so there's a lot of commonalities between that and our just the environment we find ourselves in today with all this disruption.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there's that, just kind of some background information.
Yeah.
And then here's the recap slide just to give our new attendees some background too. Dobby, did you want to take just a quick time and kind of look at where we are?
Yeah, so the significance of Seneca, and remember, we've already dealt with two people. We've dealt with Marcus Aurelius, who was the Roman emperor. Every night before he went to bed, he would write down his little journal entries, and it was a way to remind himself, as someone who is over such a large, vast area, how to still be how to be a just ruler. And so Stoicism helped him with that. Epictetus, who we covered last week, is the slave turned teacher. And his emphasis was on the only thing that we really control is our judgment on what we're seeing. It's how we judge the events, our impressions. And it's through that judgment that we're able to make better decisions. And for example, a speech. And this is one thing that I love. I didn't cover this last week, but I want to give you guys a real quick example of how this works. We've all given a speech, right? We've all been a little nervous about giving the speech. Well, what we would want to do is ask you, what is it that you want? I know it's a different way of looking at it. The person getting ready to make the speech doesn't want to just be good at making a speech or speaking. He also wants to win the approval of the crowd, right? He also wants a good grade. He also wants someone to agree with him. He also wants applause, all these other things that are outside of his control. But since the speech giver hasn't learned how to deal with the rejection of the crowd, the jeers, the applause, the boos, there's this feeling of anxiety, this nervousness, because I don't know how to deal with what I can't control. So again, the only thing in our control is how we perceive our audience, how we perceive the boos, how we perceive the applause. That's Epictetus. Seneca is a very wealthy Roman senator. And it's kind of contrary to Stoicism, because Stoicism is this idea of, you can basically do with less and still be completely happy. When Seneca is this extremely wealthy Roman senator. And so we have the perspective now of the wealthy, the emperor, and the slave. What makes Seneca so unique is that all of his writing, and he wrote 124 letters, he wrote a bunch of dialogues, they were all written to people that were asking for advice. So for example, Bob would write me a letter, hey, I'm having a problem. I'm studying Stoicism, but can you help?
I've done that before, by the way.
Yeah.
Need some advice.
What Seneca does is writes these very lengthy, very well explained ways of looking at situations, from death, life, how to deal with the loss of a child. I mean, it's remarkable how Stoicism, the thread that's consistent within a king, a slave, and a wealthy senator, is all the same. Go to the next slide, Bob. We'll look at how Seneca kind of writes to his friends.
Yeah, and we'll look at anger, and that I know that, Dobby, that's one of your kind of passions, and you've used, Seneca for anger in your life. And so, yeah, I'm excited. Cool.
I think Stoicism is one of the best ways to deal with anger because it really puts in perspective that which you are angry about. I'm going to read this really quick. I don't expect you to. So just follow along. You have demanded of me, Novatus, that I should write how anger may be soothed. And it appears to me that you are right in feeling a special fear of this passion, which is, above all others, hideous and wild. For the others have some alloy of peace and quiet, but this consists wholly in action and the impulse of grief, raging with an utterly inhumane lust for arms, blood, and tortures, careless of itself provided it hurts another, rushing upon the very point of the sword, and greedy for revenge when it drags the avenger to ruin with itself. Some of the wisest men have in consequence of this called anger some of the wisest men have in consequence of this called anger a short madness, for it is equally devoid of self-control. Regardless of decorum, it is forgetful of friendship. It is obstinately engrossed in whatever it begins to do. It is deaf to reason and advice, and it is excited by trifling causes, awkward at perceiving what is true and just, and very like a falling rock which breaks itself into pieces upon the very thing that it crushes. Novatus, we'll change his name out to Bob. Bob wrote me concerned about his anger. What Seneca does is describes anger. I mean, I've never heard anybody describe an emotion like this. And this is the very first opening of the book, which is extremely long. So it's this kind of way for the individual reading it to almost be getting therapy from one of the greatest Stoic philosophers ever. It's as if he's writing directly to you. And it forces you as the reader to say, well, maybe my kid's leaving his toys around really isn't cause for anger. Maybe I'm looking at it wrong. So again, that thread that we've been talking about for the past 3 weeks is presented here in a slightly different, more personal way through Seneca.
Yeah, and through Seneca, anger is a very huge topic. Obviously, he wrote a whole book of anger where he talks to people about, kind of getting over it. And This is as educators, as K-12 educators, as higher education educators, this is where we really get excited, because really the mission of Behavior Mods is to take this and really implement these types of teachings through lessons in the school system. And a lot of people in schools, and my students do this too, as a middle school teacher, there's just such a automatic reaction to these different stimuli around us, right? Oh, so I have this perceived injustice, whether it's real or not. I mean, you can still have the same reaction of, oh, I was wronged. I need to lash out in an angry sort of way. That's unproductive. And we really want to equip students with tools that really show them how to judge these different stimuli that's going on, and just kind of stick with them and see how they can control their own reactions. Because even though we're fighting for justice, even though we're fighting for, trying to find ways of equity in schools and the system, there's going to be a lot of growing pains. And we think that equipping people with the right tools about how to respond to these injustices would really help in trying to make a big difference.
Yeah, because honestly, at some point, you may even view these things not as injustices.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that you shouldn't be, that you won't get angry. It's that you shouldn't use anger. You shouldn't allow anger to use you. You should, in turn, just get rid of it. It's an uncontrollable passion. And rather than use anger to kind of fuel your momentum, use strategy, be smart about it. Remove the anger that fuels you to move and replace it with compassion, love, strategy. It's just a more effective tool than going into it headstrong, furious, because all that does is makes the other person furious as well. So now anger meets defense, and defense meets anger. And now I'm defensive, and we get nowhere.
Yeah. And these are kind of like those automatic responses of anger, these kind of like really intense, aggressive responses, not necessarily the kind of the passive, oh, I see a wrong, it'll help me spur me to do some action. We're not really talking about that type of passive. We're talking about the, oh my gosh, I'm just kind of red in the face. I'm ready to kind of just rage, right? That type of thing.
I'm ready to slap my teacher. at school.
Yeah, yeah.
Here's my teacher out, right? We want
Yep.
those students not to feel like that anymore. And through this, we believe that's what we could do.
Yeah, yeah. So, all right. So, and did you
Oh, yeah.
want to explain?
Yeah. So, you know, our society has really become this catchphrase, in my opinion, cliche culture of cool sayings, right? So just get rid of your anger. You might say that on the back of a bumper sticker, right? Turn the other cheek. These are great sayings, but what happens is we often leave with the feeling of that's a good saying, but then how do we implement it? Here's how we implement it. This is where behavior mods differs from from everyone else. Here's how you get rid of anger. It goes back to what Epictetus said and what we talked about last week. In your control, out of your control. What's in our control? How we judge our impressions. Let's look at the situation and the thing that's upsetting us. And then let's properly judge it. Well, how do you properly judge it? Well, that's a rather lengthy explanation, but that's what Behavior Mods does. That's what we do for the students in schools. To get to the point of being able to quickly and properly judge situations so they don't upset you really requires, like Melissa said, this constant, this constant awareness of your place in relation to your environment, right? So if somebody drives by and hits my wife's car parked out here, will I be angry? No. Why not? Because my new automatic response isn't to get upset and go into a rage. My new automatic response is to recognize that's out of my control. People drive crazy. My wife's car was parked in a place that could have been hit. These things happen. So now I still have to get the car fixed, but I don't do it angrily because that anger is going to spill over into my kids. It's going to spill over into my relationship. It's going to spill over into whoever else I tell this story to, right? So rather than let that fester, I'm able now to just look at the situation differently instantly. The feelings of anger don't build up and then I have to press them down. They simply don't come up. It's a new way to automatically look at situations. It's still a bad situation, but I'm not angry about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, that's great. And Dobby kind of mentioned, Behavior Mods has this model, and we're going to actually show you that today. We're actually going to show you part of our training manual where we actually have a visual that'll show you how to sort of walk through that process. But first, Dobby, do we have some feedback time from our viewers here?
Yep.
I think, is that what we're, okay. Or did you want to go to this slide first?
Let's just talk for a second.
Okay. So I will go ahead and mute people. If you guys have any comments or just kind of like, just shooting the breeze, any opinions about things, feel free to talk. And we would love to hear what you have to say. If you have any questions or comments about anger or Seneca, or just kind of open it up.
Yeah.
So this is Kelly. I've been this is my fifth session with you all. I think it's our fifth one. Mm-hmm. I really enjoy these sessions. I think that a lot of this takes time. So the thing about anger, like I've been thinking about this ever since last week about what is my reaction? And in my household, I tend to be the more vocal sort of yeller. So this has been really helpful to really think about how I can maybe change my way. So I noticed that Jackie sent on the text that this could help me with personal issues as well as kids. So I think that I echo her sentiment, and I do need time to take in what I've learned. So I just keep on loving these sessions.
Great. Oh, and Kelly, I wanted to give you here's a tool. Here's a little tip for you. Here's how to measure some progress. If at the end of the week or at the end of the day, you can see that you've yelled one time less than you would have normally, pat yourself on the back. If you get to the point of not yelling at your kids for an entire day, give yourself a high five. At some point, maybe you can even go a whole week without strangling your kids. I've made it. Well, I almost choked my son this morning, but before then, well, but it happens.
Let me just say something to Jackie, because she's new to the table. But I believe Bob and Dobby presented this as a way to help us cope during COVID as stay-at-home parents, and I'm a working parent, so I'm sitting here like on email trying to manage 3 children. So I do think Dobby has a point. Like I need to start reflecting like how many. And I don't want you to think I'm a like a full-time yeller. Okay. I'm not, like, my house isn't.
No judgment.
So, but yes, I need to reflect on that. And that's a very good strategy. So thank you.
Welcome.
Anyone else? Jackie, Melissa, any comments you want to make, or it's all good if not?
I just, Dobby, you said something before, having a constant awareness of, what do you put? I wrote it down. Constant awareness of your place in relation to the environment. So if this could likely happen, just see it differently, I guess is your point. Look at it differently.
Anything that could happen, assume it will happen. Prior to it happening, prepare yourself for what could happen.
Okay.
I mean,
And
it's
then
really like
change my response.
For example, and I'll be really quick because I know this is personal. Me and you, Jackie and I work on the same campus in East St. Louis. So here's an example for Jackie. Jackie, when you go to work and Melissa is getting on your nerves.
Oh Lord Jesus, yes.
Prior to going to work, you see your reaction? You see that frustration already there, right? Before you go to work, you should know and clearly identify who your adversary is. In this case, it's the person causing you frustration. It's Melissa, all right? So let's look at Melissa, and then let's understand Melissa is just doing what she thinks is in her best interest. Maybe it's annoying, maybe it's not. To you it is, to me it's not. How are you judging it? How are you perceiving it? And understand this, just like with this slide on not being angry. If we go to the step 3, part D, no one was born wise. We are all at fault for making these same mistakes. And often we don't talk about them because we don't want to make people feel uncomfortable or, be mean or rude. So it's on you to remember we're all at fault. 1, 2, you've probably annoyed somebody as well and they didn't say anything. And then 3, pardon the offense. Forgive them, if you will. And if you can correct the behavior that's causing you problems, correct it. If you can't correct it, then you can't correct it. It's outside of you anyway. You can't control her any more than you can control me, Bob, Melissa, or Kelly. So just control your response to her annoyances. And soon, they won't even be annoyances.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I'm gonna write that down.
Yeah, and Jackie, some of this was covered in some of the previous sessions, like what's in your control and what's out of your control. And I can definitely share that with you too.
Thank you.
Yeah. Melissa, anything, or you're just kind of hanging out?
No, I'm just kind of overwhelmed. So.
Just overwhelmed with the content, overwhelmed with the situation?
The just emotion of it.
Oh, yeah.
And sort of having a technique of being able to express anger in a different way, I guess. Yeah, and Melissa, we'll definitely, actually, this today might be really beneficial for you because we're going to talk about individualized plans. So we'll definitely talk about that as well.
So, Dobby, did you want to take on this particular slide, or did you just want to quickly review before we get on to the next section? Or?
Sure.
Okay.
Unless, has everyone who wanted to write this down written it down? If you have, do you haven't, Kelly? Okay, well, we can always share these with you. They're muted, Bob.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and unmute people.
I'll go back and print it out. Sometimes
Okay.
when I write things down, it sticks in my head longer.
Right, okay.
Oh, for sure, for sure. I always tell my students when I introduce note taking that it actually helps you remember when you write it down. There's a lot of evidence for that.
Oh, you know what, Bob? I did want to cover something on step 1. This is very important. So when identifying the source of what's making you angry, avoid asking the question, why is this making me angry? Do you know why you should avoid asking that question? It's because the answer is always the same. The reason it's making you angry is because you haven't learned how to judge your impressions properly. You see, put the blame back on yourself. I don't blame my neighbor and his loud parties for causing my anger. I blame myself for not being able to better live with a loud neighbor. You see, this thing of perspective shifting and changing removes you from ever having to blame anybody for the way you feel. Because you feel the way you feel because you haven't been able to properly regulate your own emotions. Trust me, it's taken a long time to get.
We're still going. We're still going for sure.
Oh my God. But if I go a week without yelling at my kid or being upset with my wife or my friends, you know, I've made some progress. And then my kids also have become less, they have fewer outbursts. It's amazing to watch them react differently to things that I think normally would affect them. They're just not as volatile anymore. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Always trying to progress. Definitely always trying to practice. So, okay. So we're at our little quiz review time. Is that what we're going to?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Okay. All right. And then I guess we could take questions. So quiz time. We kind of got a little quiz a little 3-question quiz, and we can kind of talk about the responses and some of the choices. If I can move this thing around. Okay. So question 1, it says, which of the following is an example of a Stoic practice? Is it counting to 10 to calm down? Is it sitting quietly while listening to nature? Is it turning the other cheek, or finding the longest line to stand in at the grocery store? Any thoughts on that? I'm interested to see what people have to say.
I'm going to go ahead and say all of them. But my first thing was maybe D. My first thing was D. And then I was like, well, maybe it could be the other 3.
Kelly, why D initially?
Well, because D is saying, you know, the lines are long. I have no control of the lines. And I am a human being that's just going to love this line.
I love it. I love it.
Ding, 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 ding. That's the right answer. Good job, Kelly.
Yeah. Wow. Great. Jackie, were you good?
Yeah, I didn't think that C fit initially because A, B, and D, well, I guess it could be too, but I was initially thinking A, B, and D are all things for me, like that's non-violent, non-aggressive, it's calming, it's soothing, you know, you could find some calm in there and peace. And then C seemed like I don't know, can you find the peace and turning the other cheek? I guess yes. So, although it presents a challenge where the others to me seem as if there's no challenge there. It's just something that I could do probably automatically.
I can see that. I can see that. And the beauty of it is the Stoics do actually talk about like appreciating nature. So B, I can kind of see if people like could see that fit. Counting to 10 to calm down. Obviously, it helps you get in the moment, which I guess could be a Stoic practice of mindfulness if you're doing it. But really, the definite Stoic type of practice is indeed D, finding the longest line to stand in, because it also not only does it allow you to sort of cope with what's going on, it also gives you an opportunity to train and be like, oh, now I have to go and now I have to evaluate my emotions about what is it like to stand in a line? Because a lot of times people get frustrated because the clerks are not going fast enough, right? So that forces us to do that training.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. Cool. Dobby, are you seeing what people are writing in the chat? Unfortunately I can't see
I
it.
am.
But, okay, cool.
Yep.
All right. So the second question, which of the following is not a matter of importance to a Stoic? Money, status, and health. Or I'm sorry, money, status, and position, health, other people's opinions, all of the above, or none? What do we think? First thoughts?
A.
Okay.
I'm struggling with like all of the above and health.
Health.
Like health, so like everything but health is not important.
Okay. Any other guesses?
No, money. I wouldn't. Others' opinions. Oh well. I would. Now I'm rethinking. I'm thinking health is the only one that kind of does belong. That is important to a Stoic, because health includes mind, body, and soul. That's your overall wellness. So I wouldn't think that nothing else would matter or nothing would be considered of importance.
Okay. Well,
You guys also I'm not a
trick question
taker, and then they put in not a matter of importance. I mean, are you guys trying?
As I said, it's a trick
Maybe.
question. I'm looking at the which one is not?
Jackie, I don't like these trick questions.
Yeah. Okay. Wait.
Dobby, did you want to explain it?
yeah, I'll go through
Teacher
these.
hat on. I'm going to put on my teacher. Okay, go ahead.
So the simple answer is none of these things are important to us. Now, what does that mean? How can money not be important? Our status and position, our health? How is that not important? Other people's opinions, that's kind of an easy one. We can clearly see that we don't care what other people think, because clearly they haven't thought about this as much as we have. So we don't care about their opinion. What all of these have in common, remember, is that all of these are outside of our control. My growth at East St. Louis could end. Money is gone. It's out of my control. My status and position, not in my control. Even my health. Now, Kelly, I'm going to help you out on this. And this is something Bob and I talked about last week after he made the chart of things out of control, things out of our control. Bob said, when you go to the gym is in your control. That's for your health. You can work out whenever you want. What's not in your control is your DNA, how your body is composed. Well, after the session, I went back and I had a talk with Bob. I said, Bob, I don't think health is in our control. He's like, what are you talking about? Because if it can be impeded, if something can hinder it from happening, it is not completely in your control. Here's an example. You can choose what time of night to eat, unless your husband takes the last piece of chicken. You can go to the gym and work out, unless your car isn't working, unless it's closed to COVID-19. So since all of these things are outside of us, we remember that the only thing that is of importance is how we're judging our impressions, how we judge the money. We need money, but it's indifferent. My wife lost her job last year and we were struggling financially. We were living right above poverty, it felt. And through these practices, I was able to be okay and not full of anxiety because I was making a better judgment about the lack of money I had. Makes sense.
Yeah. All right. I guess we'll go ahead just for time's sake, just so because we want to get to our next portion. We'll go on to the next question. Let's see what we got. Okay, so this is kind of an open-ended response time. So this is our last question. While enjoying a nice evening out for dinner, someone snatches your cell phone and runs off with it. What is your response?
I always say you probably needed it more than I did.
That's good.
Okay.
Excellent.
The first thing that came to my mind was, because I'm kind of a foodie, so I was like, well, I'm just going to enjoy this dinner.
Okay. That's okay. All right.
Somebody who like literally just went from a flip phone to a smartphone. So I hate technology, but I love food.
Interesting.
I mean, okay, Jackie, what are you going to say?
Okay.
I'm
Bob
so
and I got excited
embarrassed.
because what you said was talk about one-on-one. No, don't be embarrassed. What you got, Jackie?
Yeah.
I would probably yell and give chase, like automatically. I'm not even thinking of, my life, not even thinking it's not that serious. I can replace it. My initial thoughts would be, oh, I'm coming after you.
How dare you?
Yeah, right. Yeah. How dare you? Yeah.
And I'm ticked off because now I got to leave my food and it's cold.
Right?
And I'm likely going to jump up and leave my purse, not even thinking about all of that.
Because anger. Because
yeah, I'm ticked. I'm getting up. And you better hope I don't catch you because I might kick you if you.
Right.
And you're leaving the person you're with at dinner, assuming you're with somebody.
And I'm gonna get mad if I'm with a guy and he doesn't get up and chase him. Also,
You
I'm terrible. I need help. I know.
Do you see how anger drags you away from where you should be and how you should be thinking? And
yes.
Headlong. I mean, it takes you wherever it wants to go. So,
Yeah.
Great. Now I'm gonna think about it.
Jackie, we've had the advantage. We've had already 4 sessions. So this is practice. And in some circumstances, if it wasn't good food, I might run too. Like I'm here.
Yeah, and what's good is that not obviously it takes a lot of practice that, not all of us are all at the same level, but also a lot of times people don't know that there is an alternate way to react. They just think, oh, I'm going to go after this. I don't care. I'm going to put my everything else in jeopardy. People don't know that there's an option to, oh, wow, I can look within. What can I control? I can control enjoying the rest of my food. Like Kelly said, I can control making sure that maybe tomorrow I'll get a new one, or that person, maybe they needed it more than me. So there's different options to go through. And a lot of times people react on kind of these huge rushes of emotion, right? So,
And before we leave, there are 2, I want you guys to remember this. Think about yourself being at this dinner and someone stealing your cell phone. Your reaction is fine. How do you react to the person you came with reacting to what you didn't do? So this is what happens. Jackie decides, you know what? I've been listening to Bob and Dob. I'm going to be more stoic. Your friend or whoever says, girl, why the hell didn't you get up and wop wop? Or your son is like, Mom, aren't you going to get him? Or your daughter's like, freaking out, Mom, call the police. How then do you respond to their anger at you not responding? That's the next step. That's just another consideration. But Dobby, when you were saying that, I was like, how is she going to call the cops? She doesn't have her phone, man. That's what I was thinking of all the time. So that's what I was thinking. But cool.
I think also it's important to notice, like, this is a really good example, but it's also, it's one of those things that happens instantaneously that we haven't, maybe in the morning we haven't thought, like, how do I combat that, right? Like, I think this is kind of like a crisis question, it's kind of like related to COVID as well. Like, nobody knew COVID was happening. So now we're all trying to deal with it. But so I think it's important to think about this also as like, what do they say? Like, I used to be a lifeguard. And so you never really prepared for a drowning. Like, even though you prepare for it and you're trained, but like the minute it happens, you may do something else. Like you may forget your training. You may just go weird. So I think it's important to note the 2 types of instances where we can use these practices.
Yeah.
See, here's the beauty though. Since we never know when a crisis is going to pop up, we are always prepared for the crisis. So COVID is not a shock because we have seen Spanish flu, right? Someone stealing something is not a shock. We've seen it. We know people are thieves. They exist. So you're right. The practice does prepare you to make that very quick response. But the constant awareness that you need to be thinking about this is what makes the training applicable to any situation at any time.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll go ahead. Sorry if I'm kind of cutting that little conversation short. I just didn't want to have to go over the hour here that we usually have. So I just wanted to kind of let you guys know that we're kind of in a transitional period. Dobby and I, we had a really long chat last night about trying to come up with what we're going to do. And when we started Behavior Mods, and this, guys, we were, we've been practicing these cognitive techniques for a long time. But when we just started in mid-January, and of course COVID came, and we were planning on getting into schools in the fall, and now we don't know. And when we started in mid-January, we did not expect the effects of COVID-19. And as of now, we're not sure if we will be able to have the opportunity to have our program in the classroom for the fall because we might be virtual. So we're kind of having to adapt to the situation, just like, this is good training for us to put our practices into use. So in light of this, we are kind of open to new possibilities with our shifting circumstances. And we would really like for you to be part of the journey. There's some people that don't come to the live sessions, that they only use they only watch the videos on YouTube. We would love for everyone to be part of it. If you're here or if you're not, we would really like to hear your feedback kind of going forward. So we want to get some feedback from people. Do we want to continue with practice instead of just history? Because we've kind of introduced you we're in our fifth session. We've introduced you to some of the main thinkers. We can definitely get deeper into practice. So we don't know if that's kind of something you were looking to do. Are you interested in individual meetings where we have individualized plans? So for Melissa, she has issues with a certain thing. Would she like to have an individualized lessons to go through to train to get better? Some people might like group sessions more than individual. So we just kind of want to get feedback for that. Do you wish to have accountability? We can definitely help you with that moving forward with your practice. And also, here's kind of the big thing. Is there potential for creating lessons tailored specifically for your kids' needs for the summer and fall, with dealing with emotions, with dealing with the uncertainty and sort of the traumas brought on by COVID and the George Floyd protests? Yeah. Are you interested in the texts themselves or the practices? Because we can go through the text, but really the sort of bread and potatoes of the whole thing is just these mindsets, how to think about these impressions, right? We just use Stoicism to do that because we're nerdy and we like philosophy. But really, if you look into the research, there's a lot of, if you go to a therapist session today, they use a lot of these same techniques about mindset. Yep. And also, after we kind of get some feedback, we're going to show you some examples from our manual to sort of solidify some possibilities. And we're really coming to you from a point of vulnerability and sort of problem solving, because being a new business, we want to know your needs, and we really are looking to make big changes in the greater St. Louis area. We know that if there's potential to lower crime, to increase retention rate, severing the school to prison pipeline, we're really looking to make these systematic changes with these techniques. So I kind of want to open it up, and Jackie, I know this is your first time, but feel free if you want to give feedback. It's definitely valuable. And anyone else, feel free to.
I think they're muted.
Say what you got. Yeah, I'll unmute you guys too. So I think I got that. Cool.
So I sent an email previously, but just for Melissa and Jackie. One thing that I was thinking about that might be beneficial is looking, maybe not actually getting into K through 12 and during the school day, but going into organizations that help children after school, like the Boys and Girls Club or the Wyman Center. They have this extracurricular program. Or even like Bob's idea about providing it for aftercare. at schools, like once a week thing. I think again, we don't know what's happening in the fall, and I'm
Right,
you know,
right.
but I think that's something to kind of consider. In regards to these questions here, I think I've come to this as everybody has value, and I've actually really liked hearing what both you and Dobby have to say, but we also learn from each other. And so the other day when I'm blanking on her name, talked about the mini mindfulness time she has in the car,
Oh
or
yeah.
hearing
Oh,
from
Megan
Melissa.
Lemp. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Or hearing even from Jackie and Melissa today about how they are. Though those comments can be very helpful. So, but I'm definitely like one of these team players. Love the team. Like,
Yep.
I'm more team oriented. I also during COVID I had this time to listen to I can't remember what they were called, like St. Louis mental health, some wellness at home and health. I don't know. I can't remember what the session was, but one group was offering like group plus one or two individual breakouts. So I think you really have to think about what you like doing the most, and depending on the person's personality, group can be just as effective as individual. But it's kind
Definitely.
of nice to do some things in a group and then maybe have a breakout session one-on-one, 4 or 5 or 6 times into this, and say,
Definitely.
what do you want your practice to really look like? And your original thought about trying to get through COVID was relevant, right? But maybe there is something different for all 3 of us that we need to be working on. Like maybe I'm okay with COVID. Well, I thought it would,
Yeah.
maybe COVID isn't a big deal, but maybe I have another issue that I need to dedicate this practice to. So you're asking a lot of questions here, but so I'll have to think about it a little bit more.
Yeah.
But those are sort of my first 2 points.
Cool.
Great.
Melissa, Jackie, any comments about what you're kind of looking for?
I'm sorry, I missed part. My Zoom is being crazy today. So, but you know what? My techniques that I've learned have kept me calm and not frustrated through the process. Yeah. So I kind of am not unsure what all the questions that you asked were or what you sort of talked about, but so I don't really want to give my input.
It's just, Melissa, it's just, I'll kind of refresh just because your opinion is very valuable being here. Just basically, how are we going to move forward? And we're kind of looking at ways to go forward with what you guys are looking for from us, because we're kind of dealing with uncertainty right now as far as our business, because, K-12, we don't know what's going to happen in the fall. And so we're kind of looking to pivot and just kind of be flexible with what types of needs you guys want or would like to have in its place.
Because
I find these very, very helpful, and I really look forward to them. I think Kelly's suggestions were fantastic, and I think that it is beneficial doing things sort of in group environments, and then being able to split up into individual.
Group versus individual.
Yeah, she's frozen. Okay.
Yeah, I know she's having Zoom problems, but and there's also this huge thing of, would you guys be interested for your children, for your students to have virtual sessions, or is that something that might be on the table, or is that something you'd be interested in?
Yeah.
Oh no. Technical issues. All right, sorry, Melissa, you're glitching out, so I guess we're gonna have to move on.
I just wanted to comment because I'm chatting too, but I think that so I'm sort of having like virtual fatigue. I don't know. I do appreciate these things, but I'm again a little bit more. I like to be in a room with people, but of course we can't do that now. But I think there could be some interest. There is interest for children, either it's virtual or one of the camps was doing these bags. Like I bought a bag for $40 and every day there was a new thing in it. And then at the end of the week, they had a virtual call. So
Interesting.
I feel like the virtual calls can be problematic for parents who are working from home. And I'm getting near the end of my working from home. Like July, I need to be in the office every day.
Yeah.
So if I have my kids stay with my mother doesn't really know how to get on Zoom. I mean, you know, my kids probably can do it, but they're still at the age, they're still like younger middle school. So sorry, my daughter's going to be in 5th grade. Apparently that's not younger middle school, but whatever. She just corrected me. But the point, my thing is like, I don't know, like it still takes the parents' oversight to get your kid on the call or to,
You're right.
which I think is really influential. And I think Davi said it best, that his children now are less angry and so I really believe that we are examples for our children, right? And Melissa even quoted it last week. What was it? Oh, she was talking about doing some sort of stress thing, and then she saw her kids doing it, right? Like she was talking about, I think, squeezing her hand.
Right.
So I think maybe, without speaking from her, but I think as parents we see that our children behave like we behave. So that's a key thing into parenting, and even being a teacher, right? There are influential teachers that I can remember in my past because they did something that I was influenced by. So our actions and our ways that we speak is also influential. So I think that creating some sort of thing for children is a great way to do it. It's just, how are you going to do it? And my vote would be more like a take-home package that you can work on it with your kids. Like, because I think another thing is, I noticed this with COVID, and this was just me talking a little bit with the parents, but not every parent has that chance to sit down at that time to do this work. Some parents might have been doing the work in the evening with their kids. I mean, I personally wasn't the best at like making sure their homework was done. And then when I got the little email, like, this isn't turned in, I was like, ooh, better get on that. You know, so stay at home moms, working moms, stay at home dads, like our schedules are so varied. And some are also as hard because some people are like traveling, or they've gone away for COVID, or maybe so I don't know. Those are just my thoughts.
Thanks. Yeah, I took a lot of notes, Kelly. Thanks for that. So I just wanted to look. I don't know, Jackie, if you can see the screen, because I know that you're going somewhere. But basically, we have our own model. We actually wrote some of our lesson plans and all of our theoretical approach, all of our methodologies. It's all rooted in peer-reviewed stuff. This is not just something that we just picked up off the street. It's a very research thing, and we have created our training manual to go along with our lessons. So we just wanted to show you the product because our graphic designer, we really like his work, to be honest. And we really liked kind of showing you the product. It's not just some thing that we're just kind of throwing together. It's a very thought out process that we're trying to do. And Dabi, did you want to explain the 4-step process or look at the mental ascension model that we created? I can.
We could. So let's just do this model that we created really quick. Before everyone has to get out of here.
Yeah.
So in this model, we really begin by kind of raising and lowering our expectations based on, what we're about to do. So if we were going to the grocery store, knowing the type of people at the grocery store, we may want to lower our expectations that things are going to go smoothly. If we're going to see our parents, we may want to raise our expectations that things are going to go well. So that's just kind of a way to get you mentally prepared for what you're going into. Like Jackie's going somewhere.
Yeah.
You should get your expectation ready for wherever it is you're going. All right. Second part, the event. Whatever happens, these outside things that we can't control, someone stealing your phone, someone cutting you off in traffic, your kid reminding you that 5th grade is not, whatever she thinks it is. those things are neither good or bad. They're just things that happen, right? They fall from the sky, stuff happens. The third part, and this is where we really focus, as you know, is in judging that event, right? So let's go back to the beginning. I'm going to the grocery store. I'm lowering my expectations. I'm not expecting things to go smoothly. Things don't go smoothly. Somebody at the grocery store runs over my foot, or they're just being belligerent, I don't know. Or someone sneezes on me on purpose. Judgment. How do I judge what just happened to me? Well, first of all, it was out of my control, right? I couldn't do anything about it. What's in my control? How I perceive it. How do I perceive it? This person has the ability to sneeze. He's a jerk. He sneezed right on me. That's what jerks do. He doesn't know any better. If he did, he would do better. Because he doesn't, I'll assume he just isn't wise yet, because only a fool would intentionally try to make someone sick. So I will pardon the behavior and just move on. So my feelings align with my judgment. My behavior aligns with my feelings. At the end of the day, someone still sneezed on me. My kid was still a smart mouth, and whatever happened still happened. The difference is I didn't freak out about it. I instantly became a good role model, because the people who saw me react saw someone react that they've never seen that before. How on earth can you stand in this line and not even be bothered? How can you do these things and not be flustered? Teach me, student. Tell me, Jackie, mom, dad. So we become the role models we want our students to see. It's hard for our students to role model good behavior when Jackie is getting up, chasing people down like Jackie Joyner Kersey to get a cell phone back. That's not what we want our kids to do, right? So then let's do our part to make better decisions by changing the lens through which we view these events and stuff that happens to us. That's what is showing you.
Yes. And we know that getting into the K-12 system, getting to our kids, we not only do we want to change the dynamic and the climate of the school in general, of administrators and teachers in that educational system, we also know that it has the power to change communities. It has the power to change St. Louis. It has the power to change East St. Louis. We're really, really gung-ho about really trying to get these into schools where it's needed, where kids need these alternate ways to how to deal with conflict resolution. And that's one of the big things that we're trying to do.
Yep.
So with that being said, I will go ahead and put up our final slide. We're getting close to the end, people. Thank you for sticking with us. Sorry for going a little over, but we really I want to show you this last slide, and we'll go ahead and show this. This is really important. If I can get it to work. Here we go. Okay. I'm getting better at Zoom, by the way. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but getting better. Okay. So we would love for you to be a part of our mission. We did start a GoFundMe page to start doing crowdsourcing for our project. And full transparency, we did register in the state of Illinois and the state of Missouri as a for-profit LLC. But really what we're trying to do, we're not taking profits. This is not something we're making money on. We would really, really, really love for you to feel free to make a contribution. A lot of the funds that we'll get will go back into the schools in some way. We're totally transparent in the way that we're planning on spending it. This is not something that, you donate, we're going to go have lavish meals. We're not really in this business for that. We're really trying to make systematic change where change is needed. And I will definitely, email you with a follow-up after today with this video, but also I will give you the link for this so that you don't have to write it down or anything. I will definitely get that out. And we're just really passionate. We really want to get into public schools that needed. It's very overlooked. We really want to get into East St. Louis we really think that there's a really big mission there for us to be a part of. And obviously any other school like St. Margaret, I teach there, so I'm definitely going to have some connections there. But I just wanted to throw that out there, and we'll definitely be keeping in touch about how we're going to proceed. But we'll definitely need some time to talk. We got work to do, people, Dobby and I. So we definitely have a lot of work to do about moving forward. So I'm going to open up the floor for any final thoughts, and Dobby, feel free to add anything more.
Okay.
And again, I will send you this link right after we're done with this presentation. I will go ahead and email everybody. So.
Okay. Any other comments from the group?
Jackie here. Yeah, so I'm just taking it all in. And I was dropping the kids off at work. Goodness. And that's what she said. She was listening into just that part at the end. And she's like, well, he don't know. I'm going in this Taco Bell and I don't know why these same people come here every day with the same attitude, knowing it's going to be a long line and you can't get in. So I'm cracking up listening and
Yep.
oh my God, I've been a horrible example.
No.
She's like, these ignorant people, Mom. And I'm like, oh gosh, oh man, listening to her. She needs help.
We all have to start somewhere, you know, it's a journey.
Right.
So
That's right.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I'm gonna check out the YouTube links, and I don't know enough yet to determine if they would benefit more from individual or group. Well, they're twins, so obviously that throws them in a small group. But you know, I'm not sure yet, but I know that we can all definitely benefit from it, and I've got to, you know, lead by example first. So
That's right.
yeah. And one of the things that you guys can do to help us out also is contact your schools, contact East St. Louis, the school boards, the administrators, because right now they are focused on getting food and all the essential needs, but we know that there's emotional traumas from this stuff. We know that people are going to need it. And right now, Behavior Mods, we're just some company that we have some product that no one really knows about. So feel free to email, because a lot of them are scrambling, but we really know that we can make a huge effect on the way that people are just viewing things that are outside their control.
Yep.
So
K through 12, correct?
K through 12. Yes.
Yep.
Yes, ma'am.
I did throw myself in there also. I'm just gonna let you know.
Oh, okay. No problem. No, this is great.
Yeah, because I mean, as you can see, you know, this helps kids, but it helps adults and it helps everyone equally. So, you know, Bob and I love doing these sessions, and honestly, when I get off this call, I'm probably going to go back and do some more reading and studying. I mean, it's kind of all I do now because I want to be better at this and not be so consumed by what's happening outside that it affects me and controls my life. So
yeah,
this is what we do, and we look for your feedback. We never expect a quick response. When Bob asks me a question, I may not respond to Bob for an hour because I'm literally thinking about the right response. So don't feel pressure to give us an answer really quick about how you want to continue, if you want to continue. Just know that when you do respond, we'll be ready and continuing to make seminars and workshops, things for you guys in the background.
Yeah. Kelly, final thoughts?
Just a question. How would we get our feedback to you, our responses to you?
Jackie, I will go ahead if you put your email in the chat. Dobby, I can't see the chat. So if she did, can you send that to me? Jackie, Dobby will send me your email and I will reach out with our email address. It's edubehaviormods@gmail.com. That is us. It's not spam. We will go ahead and reach out to you and I'll give you all that info. So.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Kelly, some final thoughts?
Oh, I'm excited to see this video. I think that I don't remember. Do you all have a website or no?
We are designing one right now, but you know, with funds and stuff like that, we're trying to, you know, we're negative right now for sure. So we're just trying to see if there's even a demand for us to make a website. We're kind of trying to test the concept right now.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Something that might be helpful for me to kind of spread the word. To spread the word would be maybe like a mission statement or a like I feel like even in my current work, I don't always maybe speak as academic as people would want me to. That's just not who I am. So sometimes when I am talking to people, I bring in a lot of my stories and I bring in I'm very emotional. So I bring in my emotion.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've noticed over email and even for the deep thinkers, they need it like they need the sentences, you know, they need the sort of like an outline. So if I am going to spread your work to people, then it would be neat to have like a mission and like a 3 bullet point, like this is what we're doing.
Yeah, I can do that.
I can explain it to people, but like sometimes if I say it and then I follow up with an email, then it gets in deeper.
Yeah, I will definitely reach out with our vision and mission statement. It's also in that manual. So all the districts that we send our stuff out to, it has all that. But Kelly, I can definitely give you that too, for sure.
Well, and the trick is going to be selling this to like one person and then that person selling it to the school, right? So like obviously you need the administrators on board, but you only need to get one administrator on board and that person could then, because like what would an email do? I'm a city resident, and how would that impact East St. Louis if I send the email to them? Like what would they think of me? Like,
well, it could be an avenue for communication. So if they see that there's a demand for, if there's some, you know, concept that it could be working, that can open up a line of communication where then we can say, hey, the school district can say, oh, we hear that parents are talking about this particular program. So what do you got for us? And then we can pitch whatever we have. So that could also be an avenue for that.
well, that idea is really cool. Maybe you could have an example letter that we could write, right? And we fill in our own opinion, but maybe it could be like, dear blah, 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 you know, but these are all really good ideas and I'll have some more thought for you.
Cool.
Okay, great.
All right. Well, I don't want to take up any more time. Again, I will go ahead. I'm about to write an email. Dobby and I will probably talk and review even more after this. So I will reach out. Dobby will give me your email, Jackie, and I will email everybody and upload the video. So all good.
All right,
Thanks
thanks.
for tuning in, guys.
All right. We'll keep in touch.
All right.
Have a good day.
All right. Take care.
See you.
All right.